enormous sacrifice that they make is certainly heavy on my mind. So I'll close with scripture, drawing strength from Psalm 144. Blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. He is my loving God and my fortress, my stronghold and my deliverer, my shield, in whom I take refuge. May the Lord grant unyielding strength and refuge to our warriors, unbreakable protection to them and our homeland, and total victory over those who seek to harm them. And amen. God bless our troops and this mission.
Well, that's Pete Hegseth appealing to God to bless our troops. And I think after you've attended one or more of those coming home ceremonies, the deliverance of their bodies and the transfer of their bodies, you probably are moved. And clearly he was moved yesterday. We played a little bit of that at that press conference as it unfolded. The war goes on, fresh strikes by Israel on Hezbollah. Trump warning the Iranians, if you put any mines in the Straits of Hormuz, you will have even more you-know-what to pay. And it continues on now in day, Stephanie, what is this, day 13, I believe?
Something like that.
Stephanie Bellin and John Marsh, Drake Whitman, we are Wake Up Missouri. We're glad you're with us. I'm watching the Iranian soccer players who have been dubbed traitors by the Iranians after refusing to sing their national anthem at the Asian Cup, and they're courageous. And I don't know, these athletes, when they do it that way, we love the athletes. When they scorn their country, as some of the Americans did during the Olympics, I don't know what to say about them. We're going to be talking today about budget matters because I saw in the Missouri Independent there's going to be there's a resolution to make a constitutional amendment on the ballot, Stephanie, to gradually increase the sales tax as the income tax is released. I think after 2 or 3 years. I don't understand all the formula. Elias Tsapelis from Show Me Institute will be with us at 7:08. And then later on we have Eben Brown to give us an Iran update at 8:08 here from Fox Radio. And on top of it all, the SAVE Act, John Thune is catching some hell because Leader Thune in the Senate will not bring it up for either the standing filibuster. He won't bring it up for a vote or whatever, so the standing filibuster would have to be implemented because he says we don't have the votes. He's being really rebuked by many, even his own party there. I mean, Moreno from Pennsylvania is all over his case and others.
Yeah, it seems odd to me that we don't have the votes because I think the polling on this issue shows that it's very popular.
I see this story out of the New Republic, which of course is a left-wing organ. They say, the headline is great. Leavitt admits SAVE Act will make it harder for married women to vote. Oh, bum, bum, bum. What? Well, that's not exactly what she said. What she said was, as far as married women who have changed their name, if they've already registered to vote, they're entirely unaffected by the SAVE Act. This is, of course, the protecting voters, your vote, and keeping the sanctity of your vote from being diluted by, easy votes by people without an ID, namely illegal aliens. Maybe some legal aliens, but they're not supposed to vote because they're just residents. As far as married women who have changed their name, Leavitt said, if they've already registered to vote, they're entirely unaffected. For the small fraction of individuals who have changed their name or their address, they can still register to vote, of course. They just have to go through their state processes to update that documentation. She did not say it's going to make it hard. I mean, what have we come to a place in this country where if you can't get what you want by just saying, I want it, and going and getting it, in this case, your ballot and voting, somehow the people who would maybe like to have you follow some process or some minimal, decorum, somehow they're evil, they're anti-American, they're trying to steal your vote, they're trying to suppress your vote. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, these requirements aren't and I think before, I think we want to talk about what you're required to do for other processes, right? And I've talked about this before, when we were having the raging debate here on photo ID at the state level, it's like I had to bring a birth certificate and show my ID to get my daughter's ears pierced, and we don't require IDs for voting. I'm not going to say that it's easy. When you change your name, it is a pain in the you-know-what. I walked around with a marriage license for 6 months, and it felt like every time I turned, it's like when your credit card gets turned off, and it's like you forget how many things your name's on, you forget how many things your credit card's tied to, and it can be annoying, whether I remember dealing with the university and dealing with, but I mean, again, you have to, like, if I want to travel internationally, I will have to update my name on my passport to do that, right? And that's the privilege of being able to travel is to have the proper documentation. And I think applying some of these same requirements to things like voting isn't singling out and trying to make voting harder. It's just applying the same requirements we require for other things and making sure you're the right person. Now, I do think there could be timing issues, right? Like if some of this stuff takes time, right? And getting your name changed, your documentation updated. So depending, and we used to have election day. Now we have like election month or whatever. But, there could be some timing issues that can be worked out in the legislation, right?
And if you don't have a piece of plastic with your picture on it and your new name, maybe you're trans and you've changed I don't know, maybe okay. There's a document somewhere that says officially that you have changed your name, and I would think
you have a marriage license. That's the document you show to.
You present that along with
if you were married in the last 3 months and you haven't officially gotten your card, but if you bring your marriage license, then maybe you can still register to vote. Like I'm saying, I think it can be worked out in the legislation. Okay. But sometimes, the practicality of these situations presents timing issues. I remember, before when we used to go get our ID, you just like showed up and you got your ID. And now, I don't know, in Missouri, I think you can do that. But in certain circumstances, there for a while, they were printing you out like a piece of paper from a printer. Do you remember that?
No. But
okay, and so then they were like mailing your ID, and it came like 2 weeks later. Yeah. Well, my sister messed up, and this was in Tennessee. Went to go get her ID, and they're like, "Okay, your ID will be mailed in like 2 weeks. Here's your paper that you looked like you printed at home." And she had to fly like 2 days later. Oh, and I mean, it had a little bit. She ended up getting through, but because of the timing issue, right? Yeah. She's like, they took my ID. It's coming in the mail. Here's this piece of paper that doesn't look very official, but they had been through that situation before, were aware of it, and with a couple of like other confirmations, all was well. But what I'm saying is, I think sometimes these things present some timing complications from a practical perspective.
I know when they brought up this legislation at the state capitol a number of years ago, they addressed the angle of for lack of a better term, food stamp cards, EDP cards that did not have a photo on them. And they talked about in one of the discussions about it that maybe you could add a photo to those and they could be used as a legal ID. And I think some other states do it that way.
Yeah.
But they don't have a photo on them now. But, it's not tough to go get a Missouri non-driver's ID. And remember, we heard when Jay Ashcroft, the Secretary of State, said he'd fix you up if you needed one.
I remember hearing him say something to the effect of if someone was at a nursing home and they didn't have family or friend around, they'd find a way to get it done. And, do whatever it takes. To me, at the end of the day, though, it's if you're a Democrat and you're against this and you're against the basic principle of it, I would just ask you, where's the respect for the vote? You claim that you have, the vote is very important. Well, if it's that important, you can't have it both ways. You can't have it important and sanctified and a precious right of being an American. If it's that precious, if I have a diamond that's a loose diamond that my granny gave me, and it's that precious, I don't just carry around in my pocket when I'm going out and chainsawing because there might be a hole in my pocket. Oh, who cares? No, you can't have it both ways. If it's that precious, there ought to be at least some reasonable process by which you preserve that precious right. And it's a privilege to be a member of this exclusive voters club called the American Way. And I just think that, I would just challenge anyone who's a Democrat and thinks it ought to be easy and cheap, that it's not precious. You want to dilute it. You don't think it's that important. If it's that important, then it ought to be held in very strict and solemn.
I don't.
The way it's administered. Very important. If it's that important.
And I don't know that I would put it in those terms. I think what we've heard time and time again from election officials in Missouri and across the country is it should be easy to vote, but it should be hard to cheat. And so we should do everything we can to make sure that if you are entitled to vote and you are eligible to vote, that we make it as easy on you as possible to vote. But
so you don't think it's that precious that it ought to be not that easy? I don't think it should be that easy.
I think it should be easy.
I don't think it should be that easy to make sure from a system standpoint that only people eligible to vote can vote.
That is why,
and that puts some hardship on it, which means it's not that easy.
And that's why we should make it hard to cheat.
I think that's a distinction without a difference, Counselor. If it's hard to cheat, that means you have to do something. It doesn't just lay in your lap and someone just gives you a nod and a wink and here's your ballot. There's got to be a little bit of some interference in order to preserve that right.
I disagree.
Okay, 573-874-9390.
It is pretty easy to vote.
It is.
I mean, you
By
walk
design.
in and you show them your ID and they hand you a ballot and say, have a nice day. And you're out in 5-10 minutes
Well, okay,
max.
if you want to be technical about it, the actual process of voting. But in terms of having the access to that easy vote at the point of service,
Which now
called
you can,
the ballot.
like most people, can't they register to vote online?
But you just chronicled how it's hard.
It's not hard.
Well, no, you just chronicled difficulties that your sister had. So that's not easy.
That was about flying.
But that's not okay. But you no, wait a minute, Counselor. That's what you likened it to the voting process and to getting an ID.
I think for 99% of people, it's easy to register to vote.
Okay, but I'm not saying it should be that easy. I think it should be accessible. But you shouldn't just blink and have that right. You're Americans here. Well, there you go. That sets it up. What do you think? After the Daily DC Rundown, we'd talk about it. That rundown coming up.
It's Wake Up Missouri. don't know if y'all saw it or not, but the Democrat leader in the House said yesterday in a press conference, or maybe the day before, they made out a list of all this crazy liberal stuff that they wanted. At the end, he said, and we do not want immigration folks at our polling places. And then he doubled down and said, that is non-negotiable. So obviously, why do they not want immigration folks at our polling places? Because guess what? Illegals are voting.
Tim Burchett. Here's Stephanie with the Daily DC Rundown.
Well, we will see whether we get the SAVE Act because, as you mentioned, Randy, John Thune says the votes just aren't there. He said the votes aren't there to nuke the filibuster and they aren't there to implement the talking filibuster. But he does plan to bring the bill to the floor next week anyway, but passage without a filibuster with change is a long shot. So Trump is saying, is weighing in. He says it's his number one priority. He says he's not going to sign anything else until that SAVE Act gets across the finish line. He's also was expected to make an endorsement in this Texas Senate primary, which Senate Republicans really want. That's he's expected to back John Cornyn over Ken Paxton, but he's withholding that withholding that endorsement as leverage on Senate Republicans. And on the House side, they have been in a 3-day retreat. Apparently, amongst their discussions was a spending package through reconciliation that would include new tax cuts targeting a lot of the waste that we've been hearing about. But that, since the war, I think, Randy, we've talked less about all of this waste in blue states. But I think that's going to come back to the table. Also, today, we are getting the Consumer Price Index at this morning. We will be reporting on that, I'm sure, in the Morning Bell. Economists expect inflation to hold at 2.4% year over year. As we've talked with some of our friends from the Show Me Institute, these are lagging indicators. And so this report is kind of a pre-war snapshot, right? So it won't reflect anything that's been going on in the last 10 days. Gas prices are up already. They're saying more than 18% since the war started. AAA says the national average is $3.54 a gallon and climbing. And the economic indicators haven't been great as of late, Randy. We lost 92,000 jobs in February. Unemployment ticked up to 4.4, and GDP's been fairly slow at 1.4 in the last quarter of 2025. The Fed does meet next week, but with these current economic numbers, it doesn't look like we're going to get any rate cuts anytime soon.
No. That CPI thing's big deal today on the heels of last week's poor, jobs numbers. It
really is. Also, Trump is trumping. Apparently, we did see shots were fired at a U.S. consulate in Canada yesterday, but Trump is battling with Mark Carney and trolling him. He called Prime Minister Mark Carney the future governor of Canada in a Truth Social post on Tuesday. Not great. Why do we need a battle with Canada?
Because they're Canada. I love it. This is the best thing to come from the administration.
Really, Drake?
I hate Canada, and you know this.
It's a hockey thing.
Okay, that's fair, but we beat them, right? So who cares, right? If you win.
No, it's not just a hockey thing. I just hate them with all of my being.
All right, there's also a rift amongst conservative commentators on the Iran war. We've got Tucker Carlson lobbying against striking Iran. We've got Megyn Kelly going after Sean Hannity. Joe Rogan is saying Trump betrayed his base. Meanwhile, we've got Hannity, Brian Kilmeade, and the Wall Street Journal saying Trump should hold strong on the war. So we'll continue to monitor that and the polling on the war.
Has America been
It's Wake Up Missouri on a rainy Wednesday morning.
You almost subtracted a day. We already lost an hour this week. We don't need to lose a day.
I'm still trying to play catch-up ball there. I cannot get to sleep. I've been trying to do all the light stuff and all that. Cannot get this thing in order.
I love this daylight savings time. I really felt it last night. I mean,
how's that?
It was light out.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
like 7:30. It was amazing.
I hate when I was getting home to where I didn't want to walk, even with my bright orange dad shoe, New Balance shoes. I just didn't want to walk in the dark. Now I can walk in the light when I get home at 6:30 or so.
The fact that you had to call them dad shoes, like you just preface it without anything else.
Well, we talked about that last
I know.
week, so,
You're just proving my point more. But I digress.
John, I have. I hope management isn't listening because we really need you here on the news team, and we love you on the show and all that. I mean, you're such a pillar in this organization.
Uh-oh.
But there's an opportunity for you. I don't know. We may be announcing it in some time in the future. Columbia wants to hire a comms director for $110,000 to $170,000.
Yeah, our current one's not doing too bad herself. Sydney, she makes a pretty good paycheck over there, and she's jumping to Central Bank.
Is she? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay, I didn't. I wondered why this was opening up.
Yeah,
okay.
She's moving on to be the marketing person for Central Bank of Columbia, Boone County.
Steph? Comms director?
Columbia? I mean, that's not bad. I was just trying to check the Attorney General's website for what the starting pay for an attorney is. Mm-hmm. I know it's lower than that for sure. And this isn't a starting job, but that's a decent salary now, in mid-Missouri.
It's very interesting. I'm looking here. Drake, let's see. Qualifications. Manages research, creation, implementation of strategic communication plans, crisis and emergency. Leads initiative, serves as the primary spokesperson, primary point of contact for crisis, cultivates relationship with media and community partners. There you go.
I can do that.
Serves as communications subject matter expert for city leadership.
It says the starting pay for an assistant attorney general is around $70,000 per year.
For an
it's
attorney?
Not much when you've got law school.
Oh, it goes fast.
Loans to pay off, right?
But that's a springboard to bigger things.
Not at the Attorney General's office. I think they top out at like 110.
No, but I mean, if you've got that in your CV, that looks pretty good when you go to.
What's the salary for this comms position?
What is it? 108 to.
Yeah. I saw 150 on the current one, but it may be more than
110 to 169.
Yeah.
I mean, John, what's our city admin in Jefferson City make? Like,
I think she makes $75,000 if I remember correctly.
But what about
on that
the
one.
City administrator? Like, our city admin in Ashland doesn't make 169. I know that for a fact.
You know what I like about this? Maybe I ought to apply. I like this because I don't see a bullet point that says like has to do social media.
If I was the comms director, the social media would be popping.
I assume if you're making 170 and you're the comms director, you have a comms staff.
Yeah, that's the plan. Columbia's talked about having a whole sort of a media model department over there with multiple staff to handle all of that. Because I know a lot of folks in smaller communities, where they end up being the quote spokesman or marketing person for the county. That means they get to do the daily in-house newsletter and all that kind of stuff on top of, maybe concentrating on being more of a spokesman for the city.
Well, we need a whole team, Randy, to deal with all the crises communications. Maybe we should spend some of that money on having less crises.
Yeah. Well, I don't understand. I don't like. Why don't we? I mean, I don't want to demean whoever this is, and certainly Sydney's done a good job. But I just can't. Can't the mayor speak for herself? Can't the manager speak for? Can't someone pick up the phone? You just get a. What do you mean? What do you say? Drake go no. There's a thing called email. There's a thing called text. There's a thing called looking at the microphone at the TV screen or looking at the reporter and making a statement and saying something like Donald Trump does.
I would say I think cities should have a comms person because oftentimes when citizens have issues, when I dealt with downtown Jefferson City, I had a lot. I just needed to know what was going on. And even though they couldn't answer every question, they could at least direct me to the right person. And they kind of serve as like a clearinghouse for like getting information out to people who know. But like this seems like a lot for
a savvy secretary can be a traffic cop. A savvy receptionist can say, well, dear Stephanie, it sounds like you need the license office to get your voter ID after you got married. I mean, I don't.
I'd pay so much.
Jefferson City's had kind of a weird history with spokesmen because for many, many years they never had anybody who was, officially the marketing director, public relations person, whatever you call it.
Yeah, then we had Michelle for a long
Michelle
time.
Gleba.
She was great.
They instituted Michelle, and then they eliminated the council moved to eliminate the position in Jefferson City. So Michelle was out of work, and then in recent years they've brought it back. So it's kind of weird to see how some communities deal with that position, and sounds pretty lucrative if you want to put your name in the hat in Columbia for sure.
Okay, I can get you need to have someone in the someone at the high position there, but now you're talking about a whole staff. What? I don't get it. I mean, just the city does water and electricity and roads and cops, and then what do you need? What do you mean? No, it doesn't, Drake. What else should a city do?
No, I'm saying that we don't do that. I mean, our police,
housing. Okay, no, Parks and Rec.
No, I'm not arguing with the fact that that's what a city is fundamentally supposed to do. I'm saying Columbia doesn't do those things well. I was doing a hit on Columbia.
Oh,
okay.
Well, this is no, I think you're right. I thought you were justifying that cities should do more. Okay. Sandy says waste of money. And again, you got to have a comms director. I understand that because I think the critical number 1 through 10 bullet points is crisis communications, right? I mean, that's when there's something going on.
I think also, it is our tax dollars, right? So, Randy, I'm sure you would love to pay someone $170,000 a year to do nothing but market your business. I sure as heck would. But you know what? Some of our hard-earned dollars are going to our local governments to pay for them to market things.
That's a good point. It's a marketing position.
Yeah, essentially. And again, I think it is important to get information out to the citizens, but I think balancing that need with the fact that these are tax dollars is also something that we should consider.
And excuse me, but we got AI.
AI.
We got AI. I mean, come on, if you're the mayor and you've got, oh my goodness, we just had another shooting downtown and here's the context and take a look at what should I say? And done. Here's your speech.
Are you singing the praises of AI this morning? Oh my goodness.
No. I'm just saying. I mean, if you want, come on. I'm a realist in that sense.
If it saves the city $150K, sure, why?
But we really should talk about the important thing because that staffer that's assigned to social media is going to have to learn about the new emojis that Apple is releasing, Randy.
I love one of them.
One
of them is
I know. I saw it
heart.
and I was like, oh my gosh, Randy, this is so exciting.
Why?
You don't usually use emojis, but I think you're going to use this one.
I do. I use them.
It's kind of like when they add new words to the dictionary, I get all excited. When they add emojis to my iPhone dictionary, I'll be excited. They're not coming until I think September, but they're going to be. The other thing they don't ever announce is, do these emojis, I need to know the answer to this. Are they replacing are we losing some emojis when they add emojis, or do they just keep adding? This is the question
Is it like a Trump, for every one we pass, we have to slash 10 of them? I don't know.
Well, Randy, they're adding a trombone.
I know, it's beautiful.
I wonder how Gen Z,
thing.
I think, the trombone's kind of like, people say sad trombone. I think maybe when you're sad, you'll use the trombone, right? Is that how we're going to use the trombone, Drake?
No.
I'm looking at some of these, and there's some potential for a couple of these to be really good.
The other one I'm really excited about is the Bigfoot.
Yeah,
the Bigfoot's good. The bulging face, that's going to be a reaction from me.
It's called the distorted face, but yeah, it's even better than the wide eye emoji. The treasure chest could be fun. I want to know, are there emoji lobbyists? Is there a Bigfoot lobby and a trombone lobby that goes
Killer
to the
whale
board
lobby?
that goes to the board of Apple and is like, hey, we want our own emoji. And sometimes, and this is interesting because it isn't very it's not, there's no politically charged ones. If you recall, remember there was like, we're going to add a pregnant dude and we're going to add they wanted, and I think it has been good that in some ways, like, you can get your different skin colors. And I think disability advocates argued pretty strongly at the beginning, like, hey, let's add someone in a wheelchair or something. So like people can express themselves. But oftentimes when we see these releases, there's some, gender things or there's some other like politically motivated ones. And here they're just like, how about a Bigfoot? And I'm like, okay, we're back.
Why?
There is a pregnant male, by the way.
There is.
Yeah,
I know. That got added.
Why is there an orca as one of the new emojis? Like Shamu, the killer whale. Why is that?
Why not?
What's the trombone about? I don't understand. I mean, I love
It's
trombone.
just an emoji.
But I know, but shouldn't it have a purpose?
The organization, there's a consortium who decides, and the organization encourages designers to think of emoji concepts that can have multiple uses, be used alongside other emojis, appear distinct, and be used frequently across the globe. That's how you get your emoji approved. Only about 30 new emojis are approved each year.
Emoji. We are too prosperous in America. This is prime evidence of that.
The Unicode.
If we have time to be working on consortiums of emojis, we definitely have it too good here. We are blessed.
This is the Unicode Consortium. The nonprofit organization has been responsible for approving new emojis on devices globally. Get excited.
The trombone would symbolize the womp womp sound.
Yeah, right?
Womp,
It's kind
womp.
of. I'm loving this. Instead of just a frowny face, you text someone the trombone.
And what is that bulging eye face? What is that supposed to be?
It's the distorted face. It's like bulging eyes. Like it's going to be the new like yikes.
I don't know what it's gonna be. I'm just gonna use it for everything. That's one of my favorite things. I like putting random emojis that don't relate at all with the statement. Like I'll put a clown emoji to something really serious or just randomly just to throw people off. But
I do like going to images and in a text and finding something that's sort of semi-related to the topic.
The fight cloud is kind of fun. It's like a cartoon fight cloud, like a dust cloud. I could see people using that. Landslide. It's a little climatey for me.
Is there a purple buffalo? Dakota says.
Oh,
that's good.
Mark says Columbia does not need a comms director. Current city council and city manager are the real issue. Roger says new Como comms department, job creation, baby.
There you go.
I don't even know if I want to go here with this next topic on make Missouri healthy again. All you Ozempic, Wegovy, Zepbound and users, listen up when we come back.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
Well, welcome back to Wake Up Missouri. We're going to be talking about Missouri budget matters, tax reform proposals, how they're all going to mesh together for you or against you, or however you want to view the tax and budget situation. But there's a report out, and again, it's a preliminary report, but I'm just going to caution you, you're going to see it. It's very early, but based on remember the VAERS system, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System,
No.
On a similar, there's an adverse event reporting system that the FDA has. So if you're put on a medication and then you have a day or month, a week later, whatever, you have some kind of a reaction, you get a rash or you get a dizzy or you get a headache or you get a vomiting, okay, you can report it in there, right? Now, you could have gotten that because of some other reason, but these are the earliest, sometimes, little signals of maybe there's a issue with the drug that wasn't discovered in the initial formal trials. This is called post-marketing surveillance. Well, there's a report out that, again, from the U.S., that looks at data from the Adverse Event Reporting System, looking at these GLP-1 and GLP-1/GIP medications. So Ozempic and Wegovy are the diabetes and weight loss versions of semaglutide, and Mounjaro and tirzepatide and Zepbound are the diabetes and weight loss versions of tirzepatide. They looked at the incidence of something that involves a problem with your optic nerve, where it can, in 5 to 15% of the cases, lead to either severe loss or blindness of your vision. Now, it's a low incidence event to begin with, but they're talking about a significant increase in this problem being reported associated with the use of, drumroll, Wegovy, but not Ozempic. Same medicine, but for weight loss, it's called Wegovy, and it's a little different schedule of how it ramps up in the maximum dose. The maximum dose is 2.4 milligrams per week. The maximum dose of Ozempic is 2 milligrams per week. They're suggesting that if this, in fact, proves out to be some kind of a causal relationship, remember, this is just people. Could it be that people that are on Wegovy have other things going on and using Wegovy is just a marker for something else that puts them at risk as a basis of their overweightness? We don't know. So it doesn't make a lot of sense at one level, but if you want to be cautious about it, they did not find a reporting association or an increase in this particular very serious optic neuropathy, ischemic, meaning not enough blood flow to the optic nerve. That's in the back of your eyeball that feeds the retina, that is basically the film in your camera or the chip in your camera. We've already switched, if people can do it, if they're going to use it, I use a different customized ramping system, and I prefer tirzepatide. It's the combination of the two hormones in that, the two peptides, tend to buffer some of the nausea and some of the side effect complaints. Plus, it has the potential for higher weight loss. And now, at least it's sort of staying clear of this kind of a controversy. You're going to hear about this. For those of you who are on semaglutide, Wegovy, or Ozempic, you might read about this. You might hear about it. Again, this is based.
It affects a lot of people.
This is non-curated yet. It's early information, but I'm sure you're going to hear about it in the next day or 2 or 3 or 4. If you do, talk to your doctor about it. You may want to just have a discussion about whether, you should look at something else, or if you're ramping up, ramp up slower. They're suggesting a dose phenomenon here. So the higher the dose, maybe more. Again, preliminary stuff. I just want to put it on your radar. Budget and taxes when we come back.
from the Zimmer Radio Network headquarters.
About what a disaster this is for colleges, for the players, for the families, ruining everything.
It's your morning addiction.
You know, these people that are, they're demonic.
Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News Team.
I want to try to earn their support, and I'm going to be very open and honest with them. And at the end of the day, all I can do is do my job.
And now, introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
Welcome back into Wake Up Missouri on a rainy Wednesday morning. But hey, it's Wednesday. That's a lot better than Monday, right? Elias Tapelis joins us now with Show Me Institute. He's the budget guru over there. Knows a little bit. No, he knows a heck of a lot about state budget matters. And I saw this article, Elias. Welcome into the program.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, I saw this article about about a proposed. Well, I guess they're trying to get through a potentially a constitutional amendment vote for the folks to replace the income tax with an expanded sales tax. This brought up by State Rep Bishop Davidson from Republic. An interesting proposal. It would phase it out, I guess, with some safety stops in case revenues fell short, but a revenue allowing, they would taper down the income tax, which is, I think, generally what the governor had talked about. But then expanding the sales tax base, and I read not expanding the sales tax base, although I don't believe that when I read the rest of the article. And at the same time, having to be revenue neutral, go up to like 13% state sales tax. That doesn't include local. So with that as the backdrop, what are the current income and state property tax the sales tax and property tax provisions that are percolating through the legislature, and which do you think have the longest legs?
Well, I think just to start, we don't know anything, at least right now, about what the sales tax rate could be going up to. I certainly wouldn't be saying anything, like 13%. The state's sales tax rate right now is 4.225%. But what the Missouri House worked on yesterday, got the first vote on, was essentially something like you mentioned that basically looks at Missouri's state revenue, and if it exceeds the previous year by a certain amount, it would lower the state's income tax rate by a percentage, basically, to be sure the revenues stay neutral there. And then it's asking Missouri voters to basically say, hey, do you want the legislature to be able to adjust the state sales tax, whether that be the rate or the things that we pay the sales tax on, if that money that would come from that would go directly towards eliminating the state income tax. And overall, I think it's a good idea, but this is really a base plan. This is asking Missourians if they want the legislature to start going down that path. And I think we've discussed in the past, I think the state's income tax is probably the most economic damaging tax we have. And so looking in that direction is certainly a good idea, but there's a lot more to figure out, but at least it's a good start.
So tell us why it's a good idea. You said it's one of the most damaging taxes. I think the Show Me Institute for many years has talked about getting that income tax rate down. Why should this end up before the voters, why should they walk in and say, yes, we should lower the income tax rate, even if that means expanding the sales tax?
Well, one of the biggest things here is that if you tax something, just a general principle, if you tax something, you're going to get less of it. And so right now in Missouri, when you're paying tax on income, you're paying a tax on the productive things that you do. You're paying a tax on your work. This is money that just doesn't even come to you. So if you're talking about looking at something more like a consumption tax, like a sales tax, that's Missourians getting more money in their pocket and they can go spend it, where they want. And that, over time, what years of research have shown and what we can see all across the country is that when you're not taxing productive things like that and you're giving people more money to spend how they want instead of the government, you get more people coming to the state, more businesses coming to the state, so you get a faster growing state. And what a recently released report comes out is that if in states that don't have the income tax, you also see higher wage growth. So that means people are going to be earning more people are going to be here, and more money in our bank accounts to spend wherever we want. So it's going to be better economically, and I think we also have to realize that as a state, we're competing against all the other states in the country here, and so our surrounding states are improving their tax climate. I think, as the governor's mentioned, Missouri's sales tax system is really out of date. So looking at all these things, making Missouri more competitive, I think it's going to be a benefit just all across the board for Missourians.
That's Elias Chapelas. He's the director of state budget and fiscal policy at the Show Me Institute, showmeinstitute.org, joining us on Wake Up Missouri this morning.
Elias, talk to us about the opponent's argument about increasing sales taxes, and even sales taxes on services directly affects low-income or fixed-income families. Your take on that?
Well, there's a couple pieces to that. So I would say right now, Missourians are being taxed twice whenever they're buying goods. We're getting taxed whenever we get paid from our job, and we're getting paid when we go to the store. So if we're just talking about not paying income tax and paying tax on consumption, we get to a point where we're only paying tax once, which economically is going to be better overall. But when it comes to the idea whether a tax is regressive or not, ultimately that really comes down to what the state sales tax base would be expanded to. When you start talking about different things that aren't taxed right now, like digital goods, things like that, or services, across the economy, there are plenty of different services that people of different income levels spend more on. Right now, people of lower income, we already don't pay state sales tax on groceries. We don't pay it on prescription drugs, things like that. So if you start looking at services or other types of things, we really can't know too much about what the impact is going to be across the income scale until we kind of dive deeper into the details of what we'd be expanding it to. And as of right now, there just hasn't been a discussion on that. The legislature is really debating, hey, should we just give the legislature the authority to try to figure this thing out? And I think once we realize that we are in a race against all of their states for businesses, making our state more competitive, and there's still so much to figure out. I think we should agree that it is a good direction to go, but there's a lot to keep an eye on.
Elias, the thing that gets my goat about what's missing from this discussion, and it was in this, and I don't know who the reporter is. It doesn't, I don't know. I'm not going after anyone here, but okay, Jason Hancock, the reporter. This line about 13% was just matching the current revenue, according to Jason Hancock in reporting, from the individual income tax without expanding the transactions that are taxed would require raising the state sales tax to nearly 13%. Why are statements like that and statements like, how are we going to make up the revenue? How come those statements are standalone statements that are missing the big, important gorilla question in the room is, what about that? Everyone's assuming this predicate that we need to keep spending as much money as we are, and we need to make up what's being lost if the income tax goes away in the first place. Why is the second part of that teeter not tottering?
Well, I certainly don't know that answer. I'm always out here talking about how Missouri does need to rein in our spending. I mean, our budget is basically double the size it was 6 years ago. So, any sort of dollar that is gained, in terms of raising revenue, it's equivalent to also saving some money in terms of spending. But I really don't put too much value in these estimates of, 13% or something, because really we don't have any idea what the sales tax might need to go to replace Missouri's income tax right now. If you're talking about expanding the sales tax base, the more type of things that you bring in there would reduce the need to raise the rate near as much. And we don't know what the legislature would be considering in terms of how to extend the base there. And frankly, the whole issue with extending the base is Missouri already has so many ways that we're already giving away tax dollars. We have hundreds of sales tax exemptions. We have almost $1 billion a year we're giving out in tax credits against the income tax. Missourians are already paying higher rates on taxes than the government is receiving. And in my opinion, the government's already receiving too much. So it's far too early to get to that debate, but spending definitely needs to be part of the discussion.
Well, that's my point. I mean, it seems as though Republicans have just given up the battle. They've stopped talking first about reducing the obligations of government and thereby reducing spending. And then, oh, by the way, we don't have to make up as much if we're going to lose a little bit on the income tax. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it, dear voter? It's lost on me that the predicate is assumed that, well, we just got to make up what we're already spending because that's what we're spending. I'm like, where are you guys? Come on, you're supposed to be limited government people, I mean, not you. I mean, I know where you stand.
It's always amazing to me, whenever there's the budget discussions going on. Missouri's budget always starts from looking at last year's budget and then just how much more money we should spend from there.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like us to start looking at the 2019 budget when Missouri was spending about $27 billion a year as opposed to $54 billion.
There you go.
Starting there, or let's not continue all these different tax credits. Last week there was a hearing on extending the film tax credit, which is another giveaway that years of research shows that it isn't a good idea.
Oh, I know.
Let's stop giving away our tax revenue. Let's stop spending more, and let's make the states tax competitive with other states.
We ran out of time for Stephanie to lobby for expanding that tax, the sales tax based on professional services. We only have 30 seconds left. You already can't afford doctors and lawyers. I mean, now you're going to charge, they're going to put sales tax on those fees?
Well, I certainly don't know what all is going to be included in there, but I don't think any state in the country is collecting sales tax on lawyers' fees. So
all right,
I would doubt Missouri be number one.
Okay, well, you just stayed on Stephanie's good side there. You don't want to get on Stephanie's bad side. Let me tell you, you don't want to get that question mark, and you're what? Hey, thanks, Elias. Always fun to talk to you. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys.
All right. We'll be back in just a minute with more Wake Up Missouri. Stay tuned.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
they are trying to deport them as well. So it's not a mass deportation agenda. It is also an agenda intended to reduce the population of the United States, including U.S.-born people.
Thank you.
These are not hyperbolic statements. I appreciate you reading my account. I appreciate
Here's
your
the good
research.
news.
What planet did you just... Wait a minute, Mr. Chairman. What planet did you just parachute in from?
No. Hey, guys.
You trigger my gag reflex, Mr. Beaver.
That was a little dust up with John Kennedy and a former undersecretary of under something, under the whatever, around the corner at DHS, who was trying to maintain that DHS was trying to deport 100 million Americans, people from the country, some of whom were U.S. citizens, U.S.-born citizens. And it went on. It was an interesting back and forth. And it got me to thinking, John, Stephanie, Drake, have you seen, have we heard, has your feed fed you anything about masked ICE Nazi agents in the streets sweeping people away from Home Depots and out of classrooms and churches? Has Tom Homan gone stealth? Are they not doing the same thing they were doing in Minneapolis? Are they just doing it more discreetly? Has anyone heard anything about this?
I think what's been going on is that,
are they
it's
backing
been happening.
down?
It's been happening the same way from what I've been seeing. It's just that other cities aren't throwing a hissy fit and protesting like Minneapolis is.
Yeah.
So we don't see as much.
Isn't it interesting, though? We reported at the time that like places in Texas and Florida and others, but my goodness, it's just like all of a sudden, whoosh, nothing. You don't hear it. And I think that was about, all this was happening along with, it started happening when Tom Homan was like, new sheriff in town up there, right? When he hit the ground up there. And then despite what has really settled down in that arena, the Democrats, Hakeem Jeffries and others are still saying, it's not enough. I saw this report. Did you see this in The Hill where a couple of former ICE agents were saying, they brought some of these people in to help us to reinforce. These are former agents. And some of them are undercover, I guess, cops or agents federally. And that's one of the reasons they're wearing masks, along with protecting their families. And they disagreed with it. They said they've never seen anything like this. Well, maybe that's because they weren't in the same environment. I don't think of The Hill as being particularly biased against ICE. I don't know, but it was an interesting story.
No, the big thing on The Hill is they keep the Democrats say that ICE is the vast majority of people they've detained are legal immigrants or illegal immigrants, but without criminal records. And it's like, really? And that figure the Dems are using was 70 to 80% of them didn't have criminal records. I find that a little hard to believe, but maybe so.
Yeah, I think, that's what Caroline Leavitt and others, what Kristi Noem and others have said, and I believe that's true. The definition the Democrats are using is a, violent, if they don't have a rape or murder or, shooting someone, whether you kill them or not, a felonious assault with a gun, it could be something that's less violent, if you will, but still a crime. To me, I still think it's a violent crime when you break into someone's house, store, and you break and ruin their business. That's violence, isn't it? May not be against a human, but it's violent.
Or even felony like theft and things like that.
Yeah, that's serious for the recipient of said crime. It's a big deal. We'll be coming back in a sec, and we'll be talking about an Iran update with a Fox News reporter at 8:08 with the latest. Stay tuned.
I think just local news is like the most important stuff to me, even though it's kind of like
Well, I've been thinking, I've been seeing all these precautionary stories and scientific reports, Stephanie, about AI and how it can, there may be some serious.
You're on a different side
thoughts.
of the talk than I am.
Well, no. I want to preface this by saying AI was my friend yesterday afternoon.
Oh.
And
I think that's a step too far. You need real life friends.
In a technical sense, I value AI. When I'm trying to solve a problem, like I've got my pond, there's so many foot of depth, and I need to put some chemical on it to kill the algae. Compute how much I need. That's fine. That's great. Beautiful, beautiful thing. Technical. When it comes to other matters, though, I think there is a emerging concern among people that look at this much more closely, scientifically, in a very rigorous manner than me. So we're going to call. So here's what happened to me yesterday. I pulled the truck in, and then Helene and I go out with a walk with the blind dog Simba, and I notice my brake lights are on, including the third brake light above the cab in my big A truck. And I'm like, what is this? So all the doors are closed. I can't figure out what's wrong. I couldn't figure it out. So I asked AI. AI figured it out. There's this little pad on the brake lever, so connected to the brake pedal. This little pad, like the little rubber bumpers you put on glass on top of a coffee table, or a little rubber bumper, look the size of a dime. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's that kind of a thing that has a little knob on it that goes through a hole in the brake lever that then, when you let the brake lever up, when you don't push on the brake, you leave it up, it pushes on a switch that turns off your brake lights.
AI solved this for you?
That piece fell out. It becomes brittle. It's a plastic piece. It becomes brittle. I found the little disc, but not the little
pad part.
Not the thing that keeps it stuck into the brake lever.
So you should be an AI evangelist at this point.
I said technical AI I love.
Because everyone else would have taken their car in and been out $200 for like the diagnostic
Well, I still haven't fixed it. What I did was I found the little disc that had fallen off, and I inched it up there, and my brake lights are on in the parking lot as we speak. Okay, and I'm going to have to go to the store and get
now that you say that, I rolled in and I saw your lights were on, and I'm like, gosh, Randy got here really late this morning. I thought you were still sitting in your truck.
I'm praying.
Your lights are your battery's going to be dead.
Well, I wedged it in there overnight, and I tried to do it here, but it was raining. You have to be a contortionist. You have to be a Nadia Comaneci to get the...
You need an intern.
So, but I can fix
Might
it.
Send Drake out there to disconnect your battery.
Once I get the part, it's probably a $5 part, but I'm going to have to figure out how to get it in there. But so that was good. I hope my car starts. I hope it doesn't. Here's the deal. Stanford proves that ChatGPT tells you you're right even when you're wrong. Have you heard of sycophantic AI? In other words, they tell you what you want to hear. And they did this study, large study. They tested 11 of the most popular models, including ChatGPT. And, they tested them all. And Gemini and all. They analyzed over 11,000 real advice-seeking conversations. This is the deal. Finding was universal. Every single model agreed with users 50% more than a human would. That means when you ask ChatGPT about an argument with your partner, a conflict at work, or a decision you're unsure about, the AI is almost always going to tell you. So within itself, it tells you what you want to hear. And between AI models, they tell you what you want to hear. Think of it. They're selling a product. Selling a product.
How's that any different than talking to yourself in your own head or talking to your friend?
It gets darker. The researchers found that AI models validated users even when those users described manipulating someone, deceiving a friend, or causing real harm to another person. The AI didn't push back. It didn't challenge them. It cheered them on.
Okay, well, you just gave us a real world example of how AI was helpful to you. This is like some, bunk article about what it's doing. If you had a real life example of, I was having a dispute with Helene, I went in there and I knew I was wrong, but AI told me I was right, then I would feel comfortable. But this is like, give me a personal example of when this has happened.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, Randy. AI loves to prove me wrong, like as many points as it can.
That's because you're wrong a lot.
Yeah, haha.
But I also think that this can be seen in a positive way, because I'll give you a personal example, right? I'm trying to dial in my fitness And like, so I gave it some fitness metrics, some tests that I've had done. And I said, hey, like these are my goals. And it said, and like you said, it tells you what you want to hear. It was it was like, you're already on the right track. Like you need to keep going. And like, you're really close. Like, and so we're always saying like, it tells you to kill yourself. I think kind of reiterating.
I didn't say that.
Reiterating, like, I mean, I think like I was a little bit nervous that it would be like, oh man, we got a lot of work to do here. Or like, I think like kind of, it had a gentle touch, which I appreciated.
That's not what, but again, I think you're making my point. I was talking about technical. You showed me your report card. It was very good. Very nice report card. Very
Thank
good.
you.
And can if you get an A+, I know you'd like to get an A++, right?
I brought it in
That's
because
you.
I wanted my gold star from you.
Okay, and you got it. But that's a technical consideration. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, you're trying to hire someone and you want to make sure you can, pay them as little as you can and say the right things. And if you're every day, millions of people ask ChatGPT for advice on their relationships, their conflicts, and every day it tells them almost all the same thing. You're right, they're wrong. And my concern is, this is why we're going to call this the uh-oh segment. Uh-oh. It's fine if I'm asking it, what is the part number for the brake pedal pad that turns off my brake light switch? That's a different matter. Then I'm not getting along with Drake, and I really think I'm right because he wanted to play this bumper and I don't. All of them are going to pretty much tell me the same thing and make me feel like, puff out my chest, baby. AI says I'm right. I think there's a concern there, even when you may be wrong, or even when there should be a discussion. It's going to embolden you. It's going to make you more brazen. It's going to make you feel like I'm right. Don't tell me I'm just telling you.
If you ever come up to me and say, hey, Drake, I disagree with you about the bump, ChatGPT confirms it, I'm never letting you live that down.
I just asked ChatGPT, my radio co-host is being a stick in the mud. I'm pushing back against him. Am I right?
And of course, what does it say?
Well, hold on. It does say,
which co-host?
It said, I need a little more context. It says, send me one of these, the exact thing he said, what you said back, or the topic you're arguing about. But later on, it says, given your role on Wake Up Missouri and your lawyer brain, my guess is you're probably right on the facts.
There you go. Made my point. Mic drop. Mic drop. Now, 573-874-9390. Didn't Stephanie just make my point?
But it's not wrong. I am probably right. Like, so the fact that
Stephanie, you have affirmation bias. Don't you get that? It's affirmation bias.
But again, like what I'm saying is whether I'm talking, if I go home and I explain an argument you and I have had, or I've had with another coworker, right. And if I'm not talking to the robot, who am I probably talking to? I'm talking to my sister. I'm talking to my husband. I'm talking to my girlfriend. And you know what they're all going to say? Stephanie, you're right. Like it's the same interaction you'd get with a human. Like
why are they going to say that? There's something wrong with them.
Because they're on my team.
They should push back. They should challenge you. They're doing you a favor. They're refining your fire. They're sharpening your skills.
They're saying I'm right because A, I am right, and B, because they're on my team.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, the woman who spends more time on AI than she does putting up makeup on the show.
I have no makeup on right now.
That affirms, according to scientific studies, that she is engaging with sycophantic affirmation bias confirming AI, is now telling you that other people should affirm what the AI is telling you.
You
Come
bring
on,
up
Stephanie.
a good thing there. I think makeup artists are safe because if AI could put my makeup on, game over. I mean, come on, that would be nice.
Oh, that's funny.
I went down the deep dive for Randy and found AutoZone Big A truck brake light shutoff switch, $16.99 to $34.99.
You know what? I called AutoZone and O'Reilly. They said that's a dealer part. You got to go to the dealer. Now,
really?
Here's the problem. I'm going to go over to Mockins Ford today, and I'm going to ask for that part. and what if I can't get it in? It's it's squirrely place. It's right up there under the dash. I'm going to have to have a chiropractic visit or something after that. But on the YouTube, the mobile mechanic said you just have needle nose pliers. You just put it up there. He's done it 1,000,000 times. I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. Maybe Mawkins will help me figure out how to get that in. We'll see.
Yeah, AI just said that I'm closer to being right. Okay, you might have some merit there. I don't know.
It's going to be I think emboldening people.
Well, here's what ChatGPT says about your article.
Yes.
It says the tweet exaggerates what Stanford actually proved. The tweet implies that AI always tells you you're right. This is not what the research says.
No, but it says a lot.
Actual conclusions say AI sometimes agrees too much. It may increase confidence in your own view, and it can reduce your willingness to admit fault. These are all human behavioral tendencies, not a universal rule.
Okay, but I'm going to point out an interview we did within this week, because I was told by some listeners.
It's not the same thing for AI to tell you you're always right. That is not the same as AI being a little bit over agreeable.
Come on, it's a matter of degrees. AI is affirming you rather than challenging you and giving you the other side of the story in a helpful way. We interviewed someone in the last few days when I asked him, now, what is the best argument against your position? And it was like, crickets chirping button, please. And that's my point. You should always, I want to know the best argument. I love when you come up with your faulty arguments against my position because it helps me create a better stance. Really, truly. And once in a while, you are right. Once in a while.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let's see what John has coming up. What did AI come up with you on today's story, John?
AI came up with, where did my ambulance go?
Oh, wow. All right, let's see what happens when we come back with John's ambulance. Stay tuned.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
except for this.
Lane Fethergill took matters into his own hands in February in Sykes Creek, Florida. An ambulance on a call had parked in a way that blocked Fethergill from moving his car. So he jumped into the ambulance and started to move it out of the way. Brevard County Fire Rescue Crew guys were in the back working on a patient when they felt the truck began to drive off. One of the first got out and confronted Fethergill. He jumped out of the ambulance into his own car and then hit a paramedic in the leg as he drove off. Deputies managed to track him down. He was arrested for grand theft of a motor vehicle and burglary of an occupied conveyance. They were quick to point out the cost of the ambulance, $200,000.
Whoa.
The ambulance was undamaged.
Wow. So did they do a tox screen on that person?
It did not indicate, but yeah.
What do you think? Want to put some odds on that one?
Yeah, some kind of smart aleck paramedics joking about the wambulance and all that kind of stuff. You ever been around paramedic guys? They have a very strange sense of humor.
Yeah. It's interesting. People that deal with that kind of just acute challenge and darkness and the things they see and the struggles they have to deal with, people in their worst, most vulnerable, tragic moments, it leads to a different sense of humor for sure. And, just a ruggedness that I think a lot of us probably maybe wish we had at some point. Thanks for all those EMS people out there. Holy cow, the work you do is just miraculous. That stabilization in the first few minutes of some kind of a accident or a sudden medical illness, it is crucial. Just absolutely.
Yeah, what's the old line? I know my medic buddies always use the term Gomer. Mm-hmm. And that one, Doc, get out of my emergency room.
Had a friend who was in the ER, I won't say which one, regionally, recently, and was amazed at how many people in the, quote, emergency room seemed to have, a sniffle here, a hangnail there, smiling as they went back. And I'm not, if you go to the emergency room and you think you have an emergency, that's fine. But boy, if you can find an alternate way to get a response to your problem that truly, obviously if you're having chest pain, if you're having difficulty breathing, if you're bleeding, certainly if you're having abdominal pain and nausea and vomiting and dizzy and you can't stand, I get it. Absolutely. But I think that a lot of the ER staff and the EMS people and stuff will tell you that, boy, if we had enough of that sort of lower level care, that less acute care available so that people didn't have to feel as though they had to go to the emergency room, it would enable people to get triaged and get in and get treatment earlier. It's a chronic and growing problem in our emergency departments.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see that more as people are thrown off of the insurance systems, whatever it is, whether it's employer-based insurance because they lose jobs or, Medicaid or, Obamacare. Often, they don't ask for a prepay or copay or your insurance card when you walk into an emergency room. You're seen.
Right.
And then the whole challenge of illegals presenting in the emergency department when they don't have any other option.
Yes, sir. Yep. Well, they have options. I mean, they could go in and just pay cash, but they're not going to in many cases, and they're probably afraid, too, that if they exercise said option, that they feel as though they'll somehow be called out by I wouldn't do that. If an illegal walked into my office and needed medical care, I wouldn't. I'm not the police. That's ICE's job. Frank says, my sister is an ER nurse. She is one tough gal. She's seen it all. Yeah. Yep. That's true.
My favorite phrase from the medics on the trucks they used to use all the time was FDGB. Fall down, go boom.
Oh, fall down, go boom. Well, anyway, so that's a fun ambulance story that you tell, John, but it really does lead me to really thank God for our EMS people, our emergency responders, our police officers, our people in harm's way over in the Middle East. Pete Hegseth said a little prayer for them yesterday from the press conference. It was good to hear. Good to hear. Well, let's talk to Eben Brown from Fox News Radio in just a couple minutes when we talk to him about the Iran update. What's going on over there?
January on the 8th and 9th and then turned off the internet for the whole world so that nobody can talk about it. Nobody paid attention to that. When the regime has been executing, we have the highest rate of executions in Iran. So many people, so many women, so many men, nobody pays attention to that. We Iranians know that there will be a lot of casualties, but we also know that there are casualties every day. There are more people.
That was Iranian actress Elnaz Norouzi, talking with an Indian journalist who was antagonistic to her cause for freedom of the Iranian people the other day. And the battle continues. Joining us now to give us an update, Eben Brown from Fox News Radio. And Eben, I think now it's a matter of people are asking the questions, how wide do the gates need to be open for the everyday citizens to reemerge into the streets and take their country back? Netanyahu apparently urging them. What's going on as of today?
Well, as of today, the war continues and the intensity increases and the pressure on the regime forces continue. And that's really the best way to go about this. What's so interesting about this war, whether it's Operation Epic Fury by the Americans or Operation Roaring Lion by the Israelis, is that it's targeting the regime heads, from the clerical titular heads to the military heads to the intelligence heads, and that ends up leaving a bunch of rudderless foot soldiers who may decide, hey, this ain't worth it, because we have no direction, we have no idea what we're doing. You can always slap 3 stars on someone's collar, but it doesn't make them a general, right? So at some point, you run out of the brain trust. And at some point when that happens, and when enough of these foot soldiers just say, forget it, I'm not doing this, that's when the people can emerge and with some degree of confidence, try to take over the institutions of power there. The U.S. and the Israelis can push that to a certain point. At some point, the Iranian people themselves need to come out and make that final push. And so remember, they are unarmed and they are without their communications abilities with one another. The internet is out. Probably the local cellular phones are out too. And so it does make it more difficult for them. But I would say they're quite motivated. Certainly, everyone wonders what comes next, and I don't know the answer to that. I will tell you that what comes next is likely going to be better than what's been there for 47 years. Be hard to imagine something worse. Famous last words, of course. Something could always get worse. But it would be hard to imagine that happening.
And I so much agree with that sense of things. But yet we hear I heard an Iranian official this morning, it was on Fox, in fact, saying, and I forget at what level of, quote, leadership they are, but like, talking to the Iranian people, if you are in the street, we will, kill you. We will treat. There seemed to be a fairly large contingent of the IRGC, some say thousands, that are so dug in ideologically that they are going to fight to the death and destroy anyone who's going to take away their power. And that seems to be the push and pull here.
And it might just be those members of the IRGC are certainly true believers. And one has to ask the question, do they believe their own hype? Or are they just, suicidal, meaning that they're going to fight to the absolute end? It may be a combination of both, of course. But at some point, those IRGC soldiers or foot soldiers, or whatever you want to call them, are going to stop getting orders from people above because there's no more people above. And they're going to run out of guns and bullets and all of that stuff. And someone among the people will have the confidence to raid an abandoned IRGC outpost and grab the guns. And then what? Now, all of this is, hard to predict. But again, this is better than what it was, right? This gives those people a chance to maybe make this final fight for themselves. And I would say that enough people among the Iranian populace are ready to do this, because what's the other opportunity? Or what's the other alternative here? There really isn't. It's to go back under this oppressive rule where they could be massacred just for stamping outside their home. I mean, 30,000 or so seems to be the consensus number from these past couple of months in terms of how many people were killed in short order.
We're talking with Eben Brown at Fox Eben Brown. You hear him on Fox News Radio, national correspondent and podcaster. You hear him on the Fox News Rundown and so many other places. So what about this son of Khamenei, who Khamenei apparently didn't want him to to accede to the throne or to the leadership there. What's that all about?
Hard to tell. Who wanted what. And we don't. Here's the funny thing: the Moshtaba, or if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Khamenei. No one has seen him since his election, if we'll call it that. There is concern that there's a belief that he was rather wounded in the attack on his father's complex, that he may have a limb lost and that he may be in a coma. I heard one statement from the Iranian regime saying, no, he was lightly injured, he's fine, he'll be okay, but no one has seen him. And so that doesn't necessarily inspire confidence among the right believers there, right?
Yeah.
So does he have the presence that his father did, or that the previous Ayatollah, his father did, of Ruhollah Khomeini? I don't think so. He's not known for being very public. He's not necessarily known as being the scholarly cleric his father was. He hadn't reached that status in his clerical life. So there's some real concern. I think there's a half joke going around saying that they picked his son so they didn't have to change the stationery saying Ayatollah Khomeini. And there may be some truth to that.
You never know.
It's just saying, not just the stationery, but the ability to say Khomeini is still here, see what we mean. But at some point he's going to get hit. The Israelis for sure seem to know where everyone is, and that's the amazing accomplishment that the Israelis have been able to continually show, is that they know where everyone is and they can hit them with ease. And no one has been able to stop them. This war so far has made a mockery of Russian and Chinese defense tech. And if you think Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping aren't watching this and sweating bullets right now, you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
Their missile defense systems that they have bragged about, that they have exported around the world to say, hey, we can defend you against the Americans, it's not working.
Yeah.
It's not working here, and it didn't work in Venezuela either.
That's Evan Brown, Fox News Radio, joining us on Wake Up Missouri.
Evan, give us an update on what exactly is happening in the Strait of Hormuz. Are any of the tankers going through, or are they still on hold?
There was at least one tanker that made it through, and that eased the speculators' concerns. Remember, oil is always priced on speculation. At some point, there was a real concern that there wouldn't be any coming out, and so that's when you saw the speculative price of what we call West Texas Intermediate. That's the U.S.-based and Canadian-based oil shoot up to nearly $120 a barrel. It has come down significantly. At one point yesterday, it dropped below $80 a barrel. It's been hovering this morning around $84, $85. That's not so bad. We want it lower than that. We would like it where it was, the past 2 weeks, like $60 a barrel. That's what eventually brings the price down, that you pay at the pump. But a lot of that has to. Now, here's the thing: we don't have a supply problem. This is a transiting issue. We have in the United States, North America, we have plenty of oil. We net export the oil. That's good in normal circumstances. But if there is a concern that oil can't get out of the Middle East for some reason, a war or whatnot, then people around the world look to North America looking to buy that oil. And so that drives the price of American oil up. When we alleviate the problem at the Strait of Hormuz, kind of like what we've been doing the past 24 hours, we've been sinking Iranian ships that have been trying to lay mines. We've also been offering to insure those tankers when Lloyd's of London a couple days ago said, oh, forget it, we're out of this business, we're not going to pick up this risk. That brought some of the confidence back to the speculators, and that's why you're seeing that price of West Texas Intermediate come down. The more we see, we saw at least one tanker leave the strait yesterday. If we see more today, I suspect they'll be more confident and they'll bring that price down a little bit more. So, yes, we're all enduring a slightly higher price at the pump. We will probably need to endure that for a few more days at the very least. But this is something that is not systemic or long-lived.
Eben, in the last minute, we have your colleague on the TV side, Trey Yingst, was asked this morning by Fox and Friends folks about offensive ambitions or leanings from those neighboring Gulf states. They've about had enough of the defensiveness, and he wasn't ready to report on it yet. But I got the sense, reading between the lines, that the UAEs, the others in the area are like getting tired. The Saudis are getting tired of this. Any chance that they'll go on the offensive against Iran?
Well, that's the big question, and I don't have any inside information on that, and I will defer to Trey on that. He's been an excellent fact gatherer through these past few years with these wars in the Middle East, so I'll defer to him on that. What I will say is that the entire Arab Middle East, the Gulf Cooperation Council, the Gulf Arab states, have been essentially stabbed in the back by Iran here. Uh-huh. Especially if you're Qatar, you have to be absolutely angry beyond belief right now. You've put your own reputation on the line for Iran numerous times. And you have run cover for them. You have run cover for their foreign terror proxies. You've done all of this to ingratiate yourself to Iran under the belief that Iran was going to indemnify you or protect you somehow. Yeah. And Qatar was one of the first foreign states that they fired upon.
Yeah.
And, here's the thing about Qatar. It's very wealthy. It has fewer than 1 million actual citizens. There's a concern of a slave population there. But they're essentially a gas station in the Middle East. Yeah. And if they can't export their natural gas, things get real hairy real quick. Uh-huh. And they're not going to put up with that. Well, the Emiratis are very angry about this. The Saudis, some people are looking at the Saudis saying, are you guys going to grow a spine and do something about this? Mm-hmm. You always talk a tough game, and you always seem to back down and back the wrong horse at every point in this. Mm-hmm. So the question is, do these countries have plenty of defensive capabilities? Do they have the offensive capabilities to do something about it? And we don't have a good answer to that.
Well, the Iranians poked a sleeping bear or two or three there. Eben, always a privilege and a pleasure to talk to you. Great reporting. Thanks for the hit this morning. Appreciate it.
You bet. Take care.
All right. Great work with Eben there. We'll check on you got those CPI numbers coming up?
I sure do.
Oh, Stephanie's got them coming up in the Morning Bell. Stay tuned.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
shudder to ask what the Morning Bell report's going to be like today. Take it away.
We were on a seesaw instead of a sinking ship yesterday, and the Dow closed just negative 0.07%, the S&P negative 0.21%, and NASDAQ up just a hair at 0.01%. As we look at the sectors, we saw big losses in energy and health, utilities and industrials, with just technology and communication services up just a little bit. So we'll take that for the day, right?
Yeah.
And we got the CPI data out this morning. Inflation is basically holding steady. Consumer prices were up 2.4% over the past year, which is about where they were last month and very close to the Fed's 2% target. Prices rose 0.3% in February, which is what economists expected. Certainly, again, this data lags just a little bit, so it doesn't really include any impact from the war. But a big concern is energy prices, gasoline prices, which we know is up pretty significantly in the last 10 days. So inflation isn't gone, but it is stabilizing, at least pre-war it was stabilizing. Which means the Federal Reserve, when it meets next week, is likely to keep rates where they are. Now, a big hot topic the Wall Street Journal is covering, and it's one of the most popular stories on the website this morning. We're learning that the most exclusive club in D.C., I've been to some exclusive clubs in D.C. Have you been, Randy?
Mm-mm.
Well, the most exclusive club now is one you can join, and that's Trump's Shoe Club. It's not officially named that yet.
Trump's what club?
Shoe Club.
What?
According to the Wall Street
God,
Journal.
I can't join that.
The hottest status symbol in Washington right now is a $145 pair of Florsheim dress shoes. And Trump recently discovered these shoes. They're a classic American leather dress shoe.
Oh, my.
And he loved them so much, he started buying them for everyone. Cabinet members, advisors, other people. Apparently, Vance has a pair. Rubio has a pair. Several cabinet secretaries have a pair. Even Tucker Carlson apparently got a pair. And, you know, it sounds like totally like Trump. You'll be sitting in a meeting talking about war and other important stuff. And he's like, hey, have you checked out my shoes? Do you want a pair? What's your shoe size?
What do they look like? Oh, there they are.
And so now, I guess one White House staffer told the Journal everyone's afraid not to wear them because if the president gives you a pair of shoes, you better wear the shoes. And I'm thinking about that. Have you ever gotten like an ugly gift from a family member that's like something you wear and then you go see them and you like put it on? Yeah. You're like, oh, I love this. It's so lovely because if they notice you're not wearing them. Well, apparently this is the big deal. And presidents apparently have always had quirky gift habits. Roosevelt gave people keychains with his dog on them. Lyndon Johnson gave out electric toothbrushes. And George W. Bush handed out cufflinks. So at least, I mean, this is like, we're not handing out like Louis Vuittons.
I'm already a member of this club.
What?
They look like wingtips.
Well, we're not. Oh, yeah, they're very traditional.
Oh, well, of course, I'm already a member of the club.
Yes. So they're practical shoes. They're functional. And, you know, if you're doing a lot of work, I saw Harmeet Dillon's been tweeting about all of her steps. She's getting like 20,000 steps a day. I'm like, She's a busy lady. I'm like, that's a lot of steps. And I suspect many of these other officials are also on the move. But a affordable, comfortable pair of shoes is apparently the latest thing if you want to be an insider in Washington.
I like these especially because it looks like they have genuine leather soles on them. None of this plastic stuff.
Join the shoe club.
You should know. We'll be back with more on Wake Up Missouri. Thank God inflation is just hanging steady.
pisses me off that people always say, oh, German is such an aggressive language. Not always the case, right? Because hello, in Germany we say, hallo. Yeah, it's cute. In Italy you say, ciao. Yeah. And in France you say, assalamu alaikum habibi. Way longer. Way longer.
Oh, a little bit of mockery of the Islamic influx into France in this case. I don't know. I guess the Germanic languages are a little bit harsh, aren't they?
Very.
Right?
Yeah.
Show me some papers. Where are the papers?
And there's just so many letters. Like I couldn't pronounce like one. I think I was in Switzerland, and it was like, yeah, every road would be like,
yeah,
Stadium Schlagenwagen or something. And you're like, what in the world? You're like, why is this road name so long?
Had some of the best hard sausage I've ever. Do you like the real dried out hard sausages? Like
I love charcuterie.
I don't really like so much the soft summer sausagey kind of stuff. I like the charcuterie kind of. So when we were in Switzerland, we got turned on to this thing called Knoblauchwurst. Knoblauch, which is like a garlic. It had like a garlic. Imagine taking a garlic thing, drying it out, and making it into like powdered sugar, and then that's coated on the sausage. Oh, unbelievable! Stunk up the whole hotel room. We came up and did that.
It reminds me of, is it Neil's Yard Dairy in London? And the kids wouldn't, the entire shop is just wheels of cheese.
Oh, wow.
And you can go in and just order a little bit of a bunch of different ones, and they wrap it in the brown paper.
Oh, man.
And the kids wouldn't even go in. They're like, P.U. Like, it stinks in there. But I never go anywhere. Yeah. And you can, get like a street pretzel and eat it with a little bit of like really good cheese. Mm-hmm. I'm here for it.
My dad used to pull out.
As I mentioned this morning, I'm trying to dial it in.
When my dad wanted to make sure there was something left for him when they hosted a party, he always served a little camembert.
Yeah.
That's the stinkiest cheese ever. Okay, so now ex-Missouri House Speaker John Deal sentenced to federal prison.
Yes.
21 months, right? For misusing federal COVID funds. When was he Speaker?
Ooh,
John?
2000?
He stepped down in 2015.
Oh, later than that.
Over the unrelated case where he admitted to exchanging sexual texts with a teenage intern. That was 2015.
I don't know that she was teenage.
She was 19, I think.
Oh, really?
As we recall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's the problem there? Am I missing something?
Drake.
But this was over COVID business loans.
Well, no, I said
Yes.
I think the problem would be it may not be illegal in a criminal sense, but I guess the rules of the House of the General Assembly are you don't.
She was an intern and I think a subordinate at the time, and I think now they have mandatory. Like I think because of this, they have mandatory sexual harassment type training every year. After following this.
There we go again.
Well,
One
was
bad
she
apple and everyone needs to get mandatory training.
Well, was it like a random, pervy, out of nowhere, or was it like they were exchanging sexual texts?
Google it because you can find the texts are online as part of articles.
All right, I'll do some research.
Yeah.
I have a question about this. Thinking about the Epstein thing, thinking about, how I've got a little concern, and so did Ben, what's his name? No, not Ben. One of the conservative guys. I saw him on Fox the other day. Shouldn't we, in the spirit of transparency, shouldn't the entire investigatory file, including any and all communications and emails and texts between said former speaker and all of his colleagues and everyone else that, shouldn't those all be just made transparent so that we can learn who else is making, just because they know him, by the way, they're making, unethical text and they're misappropriating COVID funds and they're doing all kinds of stuff, with their.
So now that we've decided he's a bad guy, like we decided Epstein's a bad guy,
we
should get all of his
right. I mean, I think everyone who maybe worked on maybe bought pizza with him and had a beer with him and smoked a cigar while they were working on some very important legislation, I want to know who those people are because, since they know him, since they worked with, they even collaborated with, maybe they went on a trip together as part of a junket somewhere, shared a room. I would assume that those people are doing the same kind of stuff, wouldn't you?
I mean, absolutely. Say there was someone else.
Now, by the way, my tongue is really firmly in my cheek, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know. Just so you know, if you're just joining us. Why don't we just release the entire investigatory file?
I want to say there was somebody else that got caught up in the deal thing that also ended up pleading, but I might be thinking of something else.
But that was after it had been filtered by prosecutors and, maybe I'm fine. I want to get the bad guys. But I think of Peter Attia, who's a well-known doc, who's doing a lot of great work really filtering some of the reports. Like I talked earlier about there's some early concerns in the literature. I'm going to get an ophthalmologist on about potentially some retinal problems. We know about retinal problems. I mean, acute macular degeneration being a little higher with Ozempic people and stuff. But anyway, I like to have my information filtered through someone that, knows a little bit more about the ins and outs of legality and so forth, rather than the court of public opinion proclaiming guilt by association. Peter Attia does a lot of good work that way. He had some emails, a couple of which were locker room emails. I'm not going to deny that. Locker room talk. But does that make Peter Attia, because he had a communication with Epstein, does that make him a trafficker, a abuser, a date rapist, a rapist? I don't think so. There's nothing in those files. And yet Peter Attia had to resign from CBS. He was off of his podcast for, 6 weeks, maybe, I think, roughly. And I'm not saying that it was right for him to associate with him. And, what were you thinking about? But bad judgment. But I'm just worried, about people's careers, their entire reputations, just because they knew someone who was a bad actor. So I'm asking the question again, where's the hue and cry on part of the public for the entire I want to know the files of everyone that communicated with Speaker Deal. I want to know everyone in his sphere, because I'm going to assume that they probably have a problem. Why in the world would they have anything to do with this Speaker of the House at the time? What were they thinking? Shouldn't they have known he was going to commit COVID fraud abuse?
Honestly, I'm reading the text right now from this guy. It's not that crazy. It's a little weird, but it's kind of funny. I'm laughing my butt off in the prod studio right now.
Look, I'm not. This guy needs to go to jail, of course. But I'm just trying to ask the tough question.
I think fraud's bad, but
of course,
if you're gonna go with an intern, love is love. I think, is that what people say nowadays? Come on. This is.
We just got the big wide-eyed emoji from Stephanie. Really?
Yeah, is that the ballooning face? What is it called, Stephanie?
Back to 2015 in the Deal case. He immediately apologized and voluntarily stepped down and all. He was 49. The intern was 19. And I think, I can't remember what college he was at, but I know the administration at school immediately pulled all their interns out of the state capital intern program. So it was pretty dicey.
I don't know.
And then the whole COVID money, thing was completely separate and years down the road.
Yeah, he used some of those obtained funds apparently to pay a settlement for that texting thing.
Yeah, I think that was part of the accusation.
573-874-9390. Is 21 months enough for defrauding the government on COVID money? Probably so. He'll probably be up for some early parole, right?
How much money did he take?
About $400,000.
Oh, how did he do it?
It was not an insubstantial amount.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. But he got out of the house, stepped down in 2015. How did he do that in 2020?
The COVID money was for private entities. So you
okay.
applied for your business.
Okay, that makes more sense.
It was basically to help businesses that were hurt by that. could do is called the Payroll Protection Program. Part of that was to help, maintain a workforce and pay for them since they were pretty much.
It was for, he'd successfully gotten the COVID money for his law firm.
There was so much fraud and abuse of that program. I mean, I think the federal government had recovered, the last time I checked, something like $250 billion. I mean, it's incredible, the amount of money. And he bought Tesla, an Audi, a Jeep, some pool maintenance, country club dues. Well, those are important for the, come on.
That's a business expense.
That's right.
Randy.
We haven't talked. Is all that stuff online about Hegseth and his lobster and his? Did you see all that yesterday?
I didn't see it.
Was that true or was that just Twitter being Twitter? John?
Oh my gosh!
I don't know.
Deal apparently used money to pay for college tuition for a family member.
Yeah, this is from The Independent. U.S. military spent $9 million on crab legs and lobster in the months before the Iran war. And there's other weird spending. And I was interested in
I thought they were just eating pizza.
So do we have to do Lobster Watch now?
6.9 million total on lobster tail, 2 million on Alaskan king crab.
What?
They spent 7.4 million on lobster tail across the months of March, May, June, and October. They spent $124,000 on new ice cream machines, 15.1 million on ribeye steak, and $140,000 on donuts.
Now, you've seen this fake crab meat that's made out of pollock.
Yeah.
I think they ought to. I would pay for all the pollock they want to have, but I don't know about Alaskan king crab, for crying out loud. I mean, not snow crab, mind you. Alaskan king crab.
$225.6 million for furniture. That was a big deal in the legislature. No furniture for the AG. They paid $12,500 for fruit basket stands and $60,000 for recliners. Watch out. No reclining.
Wait a minute.
No furniture.
My vision of an effective and lean and efficient government is not, recliners is not in that lexicon.
You might need a midday nap, and there's a new report out. Which
your big surf and turf, right?
Yeah, and we're going to have to get on that report about, says, like, if you nap in the middle of the day, you have better brain power.
I need to nap.
It was like National Napping Day, I think, on Monday.
In Mexico, it's every day. Be back and wrap it up with leftovers after this.
It's Wake Up
It's still looking pretty rainy and funky out there. Hope everyone's okay on the roads. And I don't know, when's this going to stop?
We did get a reminder from a texter that said, please turn your headlights on when it's raining.
Yes.
Asked us to remind folks.
But
it's the law.
But don't bright light me on 63 going southbound north of Columbia, like the truck that had temp tags earlier today.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, he got on my losers of the week.
Tomorrow is sunny with it's going to be beautiful. High 57. It'll be a great day. All right, so that'll be good. Time for leftovers. What do we have, Stephanie?
Well, yesterday we should mention I was not here. I was sitting over at the Missouri Supreme Court. The first redistricting lawsuit hit the high court. There are many, as we've talked about, there's lots of pending lawsuits. This one is about whether mid-cycle redistricting is constitutional, allowable. No decision yet, but it is. It has been in the news that the case was argued yesterday. There was a small protest out front of folks, and the court will then make a decision.
So sometimes the analysts who, like when Shannon Bream's sitting watching the arguments, during the Supreme Court, she makes comments, media will comment. Do you have any thoughts about how the arguments went?
I will decline to opine about which way I think the court is going to decide.
I didn't ask that. I asked how the arguments went.
It was somewhat of a quiet bench. Sometimes the arguments get really hot and you barely get any words out, and the court's very active and asks a lot of questions. I think there were only 2 questions asked yesterday. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So you have now that's a lawsuit filed by whom? Or who's raising the cane?
It's Luther. It's an individual Luther, but
an individual.
But from the
protesting the redistricting.
Yes.
Okay.
Saying that it's unconstitutional.
Huh. And versus who? The
state.
The legislature.
Well, the Attorney General is representing the
okay.
state, and then so there's a variety of different parties in all of the different lawsuits.
Yeah.
So typically you have the left or the referendum petitioners in some of the lawsuits. Some of the lawsuits you have ACLU, and some of the lawsuits you have the proponents of the ballot measure. And then you typically have interveners, which are typically the Republican state committee.
Do they laugh? Is there ever any humor at the Supreme Court?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit. I mean, when someone kind of misspeaks or corrects themselves, everyone kind of gets a little chuckle, but no, it's a pretty serious thing.
I think of Justice Gorsuch when he was talking about a habitual drunkard, during the marijuana and can you own a gun law, and it got a chuckle. I think everyone was. I don't know if the justices were chuckling, but the gallery sure was. So there was a lot of chuckling going on. I like that.
Yeah, well, it's open to the public, so you can check the oral argument dates, and if you ever have an interest, you can go and observe. I know they announced that there was a group of students who had traveled in to observe the oral arguments yesterday, and that was just one of 4 cases that was on the docket yesterday.
Wow, that's cool.
If you have an interest and you want to go watch, you're welcome to do that. And then also, I think they archive the audio online as well, so you can go back and listen if you choose. I
like that. That's neat.
Yeah.
Okay, so do they have a term like the U.S. Supreme
Court? They have
Court?
Regular official hand-down
like
dates is what they call when they're going to hand down opinions, and then they have optional hand-down dates.
Yeah.
They can adjust that schedule if they so choose, but those are posted online.
When might we expect a decision?
I think the next regular hand-down date is at the end of the month.
Okay.
So
They don't wait and just sort of bundle them all near the end of a.
No, typically not.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see what happens with that. I mean, I guess those districts are still in flux. Makes it tough for candidates and donors and everything. Well, hopefully they'll come up with something sooner rather than later, so people can get on the move with their campaigns. Yeah. We'll see. Stephanie's not commenting. We'll ask AI. Let you know tomorrow.